getting into a little bit of controversial territory. I know, and we thought Coho was the controversial part of this. No. When I think about this book, I think of Wattpad. It is very Wattpad vibes, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, I'm not dissing on my Wattpad girlies. This book is one of the few rom-coms that actually does enemies to lovers justice. Cassian just does it for me, okay? I don't know why. Maybe because he's 6'5" and has wings. Who knows? Who knows? Welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be a tier ranking of all my 5-star reads. So let's get into it. So just to do a quick run through of each tier, the first one is top tier. These are books that I will defend with my life. If you come for these books, you come for a piece of my soul, okay? The next one is a solid 5-star read. This is kind of for books that I think everyone would agree is kind of a 5-star read. Like, it's a good book. It is just genuinely a good book. So the next tier is, it's a 5-star to me. These are for books that might be a little questionable whether or not it's really a 5-star, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's a 5-star to me. I don't care what anyone else says, okay? And then the fourth one is Book Talk Swayed Me. These are for books that maybe I wasn't completely honest when rating them. Maybe there was some swayed opinions when it comes to these books. And then the last tier is called It Was a Different Time. These are books that if I went back and read them now, I probably wouldn't rate them a 5-star, if I'm gonna be honest. So the first book that we're starting off with is The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King by Carissa Broadbent. This is the second book in the Crowns of Nyxia series. It takes place right after the first one, which is The Serpent and the Leaves of Night, and it actually wraps up those two books because it's technically a duology, and then the series is about each different like vampire clan or something. So I would say this book is a 5-star to me. I really liked the second one. I thought the marriage of convenience trope was, and it really had the enemies to lovers trope down. Like, it was so good. I also liked the character development of Araya a lot. So moving on, our next one is Happy Place. And if you are a frequent watcher of my channel, you already know this book is a top tier book. I will defend this book with my entire soul, with my entire heart. This book just has a really special place in my heart. I really love the storyline of like friendship and how friendships kind of evolve and change over time, and that's okay. It's okay. So the next one is Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. This is a hockey romance. It's a college romance. There's found family. It's also about a figure skater and hockey player. And it's slight enemies to lovers. They just don't get along and then they become friends. So it's enemies to friends to lovers. And it's also reverse Grumpy X Sunshine. So the girl is the grumpy one and the guy is the sunshine. He's just like this big golden retriever hockey player. And I just ate that up. I would say this is a 5-star to me, okay? I think when people read this, they don't go into it thinking that it's going to be a 5-star read. However, I just really enjoyed the found family. That is like a trope that always gets me, and I really liked the college setting. The next one is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. Okay, immediately it goes into It Was a Different Time, okay? I was a Colleen Hoover girly when I first started reading, okay? That is what got me into reading, and hey, that's okay, because you should enjoy what you read. If you need to start at the bottom and work your way up, that's totally fine. And that's exactly what I did. These books were easy to read. They were fast-paced. I think they were good for what they were. However, I think if I read it now, I would not enjoy it with everything taken into consideration. And yeah. Okay, so now we're getting into a little bit of controversial territory. I know, and we thought Coho was the controversial part of this. No, it's actually Beach Read by Emily Henry. And I'm saying this because it's going into Book Talk Swayed Me. Now hear me out. Hear me out. I read this book very early on into my reading journey. I read this during a slump. I was getting a little slumpy, and I don't think I enjoyed this book as much as I would have liked. I really want to go back and reread it because I feel like I didn't give it the proper time and commitment that it's supposed to have, that it should have. Looking back on everything and like my personal reading experience at that time, this was probably like a 3 to 4 star. It was not a 5 star at all. I definitely was very scared to release a low star review when this book is just so hyped up. Like, everyone loves this book so much, and that just like really intimidated me because I was kind of the odd fish out. So the next book is A Million Kisses in Your Lifetime by Monica Murphy. This is a boarding school romance. It is kind of good girl, bad guy. I don't know if there's a bully trope. I can't really remember, but I remember I did really like this. It was thoroughly entertaining. However, I don't think everyone would rate this a 5-star read. Like, there's definitely some questionable things, but it did get me out of a reading slump. And that's why it's a 5-star, because it was just pure vibes. It was pure just like drama, and I ate it up. I loved it. So that's why it's gonna go into, it's a 5-star to me. To me. The next one is Final Offer by Lauren Asher. This is the third and final book of the Dreamland Billionaire series. It's Second Chance, small town. I think childhood friends to lovers. I'm gonna say it's a solid 5-star read. I really liked seeing a different side of Cal's character, because in the other books he's kind of just this go-lucky, happy guy. But in the Final Offer, we just really see like everything that he's struggling with when it comes to mental health, just like self-esteem issues, guilt, things like that. And I just really liked the mental health message in this. I also really liked the main girl, Elena, and then the little kid that's also in this. And the small town just always gets me, okay? It's good. The next one is The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber. This is just gonna go straight to top tier. I loved this book so much. When I originally read it, I rated it like a 4 or 4.5, I want to say. Like, it was not a 5-star read at first, but then I just kept thinking about it. Like, it just stayed in my brain for like days after I finished it. And that's when you know like a book is top tier, when it's always on your mind and you can't stop thinking about the plot, the characters, what's gonna happen next. And that was The Ballad of Never After for me. Moving on, we have Say You Swear by Megan Brandy. This is a college romance. It's a football romance. There's kind of a love triangle, and when I think about this book, I think of Wattpad. It is very Wattpad vibes, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that, because a lot of good, talented authors have books on Wattpad, okay? I'm not dissing on my Wattpad girlies, but just the way this book reads, it's very chaotic. There's a lot of different like tropes thrown in just to be thrown in. And you know what? I ate it up. It was entertaining, it was fun, it was fresh. So it is a 5-star to me. To me, okay? Next one is By a Thread by Lucy Score. This is enemies to lovers, it's workplace romance, it's Grumpy X Sunshine. It's very much giving Devil's Wears Prada vibes, if you want to say. This book is one of the few rom-coms that actually does enemies to lovers justice. The characters in this book, you can just tell that they hate each other. There's just this like animosity towards one another, which is why I rated it a 5-star, because I love enemies to lovers and I just ate it up. I just ate it up, and it's a 5-star to me. I feel like when people read this, they don't think it's gonna be a 5-star again, but I just ate it up. And the fact that it did enemies to lovers justice is just the icing on the cake for me. So moving on, we have Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I loved Nora when I read this book. That's honestly why I loved this book as much as I did, because I love Nora and Charlie. Nora is a city girl through and through. She loves the city, she loves her job, she is a girl boss queen, okay? And Charlie, that is her workplace like rival. They don't get along at first, but over time you just kind of see what a king he is. Like, he just constantly wants to boost Nora up and just like help her shine instead of trying to diminish her. Like, he wants her to be independent and wants her to have the career that she wants, and he's okay with that. He's okay letting her be in the spotlight and kind of taking a step back because he just loves her that much. And I just ate that up. I just ate that up, okay? So it is a 5-star to me. I think if I went back and read this, I would still love it as much as I do now, because the characters just do it for me, okay? I just loved it. So the next book is Kingdom of the Feared. This is the third and final book of the Kingdom of the Wicked series. I think I'm going to place it in It Was a Different Time. And even though I read it pretty recently, I would say it's going in here because I read this book at the start of my fantasy era. So I didn't have a lot of background knowledge when it came to fantasy books. I didn't have a lot to compare this series to. It was kind of just the first fantasy series I picked up since middle school. So I think if I went back and reread this series, I don't think I would like it as much as I did previously, because I can acknowledge there were some plot holes and just like world building that didn't make sense. It was good for what it was. It helped me get into the fantasy genre, which I'm forever thankful for, but I don't think it's the best fantasy series out there. The next one we have is Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This is a romance fantasy. It's YA. It's enemies to lovers, slow burn. It's very much giving Red Queen and Hunger Games vibes. So I don't think it's top tier, but I do think it's a solid 5-star read. Like, it is just objectifyingly good. And even though the premise isn't the most original concept, I just think Lauren Roberts did such a good job of developing the romance and like just wanting us to root for the characters and like the politics and things like that. Like, the vibes were just there. And this is her first ever book. Like, she is, I think, younger than me and wrote this best-selling novel. So I would say it's a solid 5-star read. I think most book girlies would back me up with that. I really hope you guys can't hear this like lawnmower going off. So the next book we have is Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. This is a summer romance. It's second chance. It's childhood friends to lovers. I think it's dual timeline. It's very, very similar to Love in Other Words. I think I would rate this, it was a different time. I think that's where I'm going to rank it, because it's just so similar to Love in Other Words, and that book came out way before this book. And I haven't really read another book by Carly Fortune that I've liked as much as this one. So I think if I went back and read this, I don't think I would like it as much, especially because there is a trope, a very questionable trope that I just don't like at all. And I was very new when I read this book. I was new to reading. So I feel like if I saw that trope now, I would run to the hills. So the next book we have is Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. This might be very controversial, but I'm putting it in, it's a 5-star to me. Even though I'm not a Colleen Hoover girly now, like I don't really read her books, I am big enough to say that this book was on a different level for me. I just loved this book so much. I cried a lot, and the meaning and just like the premise surrounding it I think was very unique. It was very different, and I think it's shown a light on like prison reform and everything like that. So that's where I'm at. Okay. The next book is From Look Up With Love by Marina Zapata. This is my first ever Marina Zapata book, and it's a figure skater romance. It's slow burn, like very much slow burn. I would say this is a 5-star to me. I don't think a lot of people would read this and rate it 5 stars, but I just really ate it up. I just loved it so much. I really just loved the angst. The angst of all the slow burns is just so good. Back to controversial opinions. Love in Other Words, Christina Lauren. This is going into Book Talk Swayed Me. I read this book around the same time that I read Every Summer After. I think I read them like right after each other. And they're just so similar, like almost too similar. They're both second chance, they're both dual timelines, it's childhood friends to lovers. They both have like summer romance aspects. So it's like the same book, different font. And I just wasn't in the right headspace, I think, for this book. I definitely want to go back and reread it because everyone is just so like enthralled by this book. It has a chokehold on the book community. And so when I read this, I probably thought it was like a 3 or 4, but Book Talk and Booksta just really got in my head, and I was so scared to rate it anything below a 5-star. So the next one is A Court of Silver Flames. This is no doubt about it going in top tier. I am a Nesta girly through and through. I just love Nesta. This book was just everything to me. I'm also a Cassian girly. I love Cassian. He is my favorite bat boy. No doubt about it. Sorry, Rysand or however you say his name. Cassian just does it for me, okay? I don't know why. Maybe because he's 6'5" and has wings. Who knows? Who knows? So the next one is Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I think this book is honestly a rite of passage. I feel like every reader, every book girly has read this book at one point or the other, and I think it's a solid 5-star read. I really like this book. Even though it's very hyped up, it's still a good book. I like that it's historical fiction. I like that it has LGBTQ representation, and it just keeps you on your toes. So the next book we have is The Deal by Elle Kennedy. This is a hockey college romance. I would say Book Talk swayed me. I wasn't ever going to read this book until my friend McKenna basically peer pressured me into it. And I think there was just a lot of hype surrounding it that I like maybe exaggerated it in my mind. I don't know. It's definitely a little bit older than some romance series, so some of it doesn't read very well. And this is definitely my favorite in the series. The other books just don't live up to the first one, even though I love the characters and just like the found family. Like, it is my comfort series. Like, I'm not gonna deny that, but it's definitely hyped up. I don't think if I read it now, I would like it as much as I did, just because I read it very early on into my reading career. So the next book we have is Archer's Voice. I would rank this a solid 5-star read. I really love this book. It's a small town, it's friends to lovers, it has a good message, and it's just a beautiful book. It has a beautiful meaning. I think a lot of people would agree with that. To be fair, when people ask me for book recs and they're new to reading, I do always recommend Archer's Voice, just because I think a lot of people would like this book, just like majority people out there. So next we have A Court of Mist and Fury. This might surprise some people, but it is just a solid 5-star read for me, okay? A Court of Silver Flames is my favorite book out of the ACOTAR series, okay? But I still love ACOMAF. It's still very, very good. I definitely want to go back and like annotate it and stuff. And it's good. It's a solid 5-star, okay? It's a good book. So the next book we have is Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. Straight away we're going into It Was a Different Time. I read this book probably the first month I got into reading. I read this at Disney World, like in line to get on the roller coasters at Disney World. And then I proceeded to stay up until like 4 a.m. in my hotel room reading and crying to this book. And it was good at the time. However, there are some tropes in this book that I honestly don't know how I let slide. Like, looking back, I don't know how I let this book slide. I don't know why I even liked this book, to be fair. It was a different time. So the second to last book we have is Normal People. Straight away, this is going in top tier. Connell is my comfort character. I just love him so much. I know a lot of people don't like Sally Rooney because she doesn't use quotation marks. And yeah, that's understandable. It was kind of hard to get into, but I just loved this book and the characters. And even though it's a lot of miscommunication tropes, it's just so good. It's just so good. The quotes in here, chef's kiss, okay? And then the final book we have is One Dark Window. This is actually a recent 5-star read. I read this for my monthly book club. I think this is a 5-star read. It's a solid 5-star read. I devoured this book. I think the premise is so unique and I love the world building and magic system. It's very like a dark fairy tale. Highly recommend if you need a new like good quick fantasy read. It's also only a duet, so you only have 2 books to read, which I love because I feel like when you get into fantasy, you just kind of have to deal with the fact that, yeah, series are now like 10 books plus. Like, that's just what goes into being a fantasy reader. I'm rating it a solid 5-star because it's too new to be a top tier yet. Like, I kind of have to let it simmer a little bit, you know? But yeah, that is my ranking. So fun. So that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please give it a big thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe for more videos. I also have a Bookstagram. I post daily. I post reviews, what I'm currently reading, and I post fun reels. So if you want more bookish content from me, go check that out. The link is always in the description. So yeah, thank you for watching. I will see you next time. Goodbye.